Hello again, Martin Salvo with part 2 of video 2, which is where we're going to talk about the travel ban and what it is at the moment. Now, the most recent news or the most recent update we have is that the travel ban as it stands at the moment effectively only permits Australian citizens, permanent residents, and their immediate family, such as dependents, guardians, and loved ones, as well as New Zealand citizens that reside in Australia will be permitted to enter. So there was a bit of confusion, or there still remains some confusion around how that affects everybody. So what I will do now is I will dive into some specific examples that may help you specifically. So what I'll start with is just by very quickly clarifying is that temporary partner visa holders such as subclass 820 and 309 will be permitted to enter, even though you are not necessarily a permanent resident yet. It seems as if the department have assessed 820 and 309 visa holders as automatic partners of Australians. I mean, because your relationship was already accepted for the 820 and 309, it seems as if they have waived the need for you to apply for the right to travel as a de facto partner or as a spouse of an Australian. So that's a great move by the department, and will prevent many unnecessary applications and make it a lot easier for people that are overseas that are looking to come back into Australia that hold these visas without the need to first apply for the right to enter. Now, if you or a loved one do not hold a visa and you are outside of the country, you must still apply for a visa to Australia. The issue, however, is that we cannot necessarily predict how the department will from now onwards assess offshore applications such as visitor visa, ETA or e-visitor visa applications, and whether or not they will be processed. If they are processed, how long will they take? And if they are granted, whether or not the department will separately to that request that you still apply for the right to travel to Australia using the authorized form as it stands at the moment. For those that are looking to apply for the right to travel, please go to bit.ly/corona travel ban. That will redirect you to the official department form for those that are looking to apply for basically for the right to enter. It's a travel ban exemption. I'll just clarify that even if you are granted a visa from offshore, a temporary visa of some kind from offshore, you must still be granted the permission to travel. And in order to be granted the permission to travel, you must be able to show that you are the immediate family member of an Australian citizen or permanent resident. So let's say hypothetically that you're granted a visitor visa. In that visitor visa application, for whatever reason, you did not declare your relationship with your Australian partner, you must separately to that apply to the department using the form that's available on that site and evidence your relationship with the Australian citizen or permanent resident and be granted permission prior to seeking travel to Australia. Those that are offshore on temporary visas, I've received a lot of emails and questions from people that are overseas on 457, TSS, student visas, and they're asking, Martin, can I come back? Unfortunately, unless you do fall within one of the exemptions, such as unless you can demonstrate that you are in a de facto or spousal relationship with an Australian citizen or permanent resident, through that form, you will not be permitted to enter the country based on the current travel bans. So again, if you hold a temporary visa and you haven't previously evidenced your relationship to the department, irrespective of that, in all honesty, you must still evidence your relationship with the department by using the appropriate form and following the instructions on the form at bit.ly/corona travel ban. If you are offshore on a bridging visa B, so very common for people that have applied for onshore partner visas, they've obtained their bridging visa Bs, they've gone home to spend time with their family, and all of this has kind of developed whilst they're overseas, and now they're looking to come back in. Unfortunately, bridging visa B holders for those that have applied for partner visas is not an automatic right to enter, that your relationship has not yet been accepted, let's say. So the department will still request that you apply for the right to travel by going to bit.ly/corona travel ban. So I mean, that applies to irrespective of why you have the bridging visa B. I mean, if you've applied for the onshore partner visa or not, if you applied for another onshore visa and you've applied for your BVB and you've gone home and you're overseas and you look to come back, only those that can demonstrate their relationships with Australians or with the immediate family member of an Australian will be permitted to enter. So unfortunately, if you're in a BVB for another visa type and you do not have an Australian citizen or permanent resident partner, based on the current travel ban, you will not be permitted to enter. To answer the question, should I lodge offshore now? As I said before, the problem is that we just do not know how the department will assess offshore-based applications. So let's say you are offshore and you've been invited to apply for a subclass 190, a skilled nominated 190 through state nomination. First of all, great job on being nominated for that visa. They're incredibly competitive. But the problem now is that if you've been invited, obviously you have a particular time limit to apply. By applying for the 190, it's very, very difficult to predict what will transpire from now onwards. Whether or not there's going to be a strong delay in the processing of those applications, given everything that's happening, whether or not things will just be put on hold for a while. I hate to speculate, but the problem is that we just can't predict or speculate on where things are going to go. But to answer the question whether or not you should be applying from offshore, that really is a decision that you will have to make, understanding all of the complications and the context that we all find ourselves in. What I would say is that I would expect long delays for offshore-based applications, and a greater degree of uncertainty around how the department are going to be looking at those cases. So it's not that you can't apply for visas from offshore. As things stand at the moment, the department have not ceased accepting offshore-based applications. It's simply that we just can't predict how they will be assessed. Should I lodge an onshore application? To me, we can basically split this question into three different types of people. If you are in the country and your current visa is expiring, or you're on a visitor visa where your period of stay is expiring and you're looking to stay, then the short answer to the question is most likely yes. By applying for another visa from onshore, that will secure your stay in one way or another in most cases, and permit you to stay in the country lawfully and safely without needing to travel, obviously during these very uncertain and unsafe times. If you fall into the second category of person, which is, let's say you are looking to apply for a partner visa, what I would urge you to do is, first of all, never to rush into applying for an Australian partner visa, because you must be able to satisfy what is called time of application criteria, which effectively means that when your application is submitted, you are able to demonstrate, your evidence is able to demonstrate to the department that you are in a married or de facto relationship with your partner. And depending on your particular facts, you may need to demonstrate that relationship for a particular period of time prior to lodgement. So you need to weigh up the pros and cons of applying for a partner visa now, or waiting if you can, to strengthen your case, strengthen your relationship. So partner visa applications, under normal circumstances, when is a good time to apply is a very common question, and something that I discuss with a lot of couples, and something we work with very carefully with our own clients in ensuring we don't submit too soon and that we make sure that they meet time of application criteria. But particularly given everything that's happening at the moment, you don't want to be rushing unnecessarily to apply for this visa just due to fear about what is happening. That being said, if your visa is expiring or your partner's visa is expiring, yes, by applying for a partner visa from onshore, that will grant them, in most cases, a bridging visa with full-time work rights and allows them to stay in the country whilst they're waiting for the outcome of that partner visa. So there's a lot of things to factor in determining whether or not to apply for partner visa now or to wait. If you would like to have a conversation or book a call with me to discuss that in more detail, please find the link somewhere around this video. Now, those that are considering applying for sponsored visa applications, please take into consideration that with any sponsored visa application, one of the key criteria, and as I've mentioned in other examples, one of the key criteria is that the business is able to demonstrate a need for the position and that it is still operating. Now, if the business is no longer operating or has ceased trading, or there is a downturn in trade and it cannot demonstrate that it requires your position, or there is no need or genuine need for your position, you're going to face real issues in getting that nomination, getting that position approved by the department. It remains to be seen how the department will assess these types of applications. I think over the coming weeks, we're going to see a lot of data and a lot of feedback in how the department are looking at everything. But these are unprecedented times. So unfortunately, we have no precedent that we can base our opinion off to give any type of guidance. I have to be realistic and outline the risks associated. And to me, if you are working in a business that has already been impacted by the closures, or their trade has been impacted, or you're in an industry that will be impacted in the foreseeable future, if you have other options, it may be best to look into them a little bit more carefully. Otherwise, if your only option is a sponsored visa application, please do factor in those risks in terms of the business has to be able to show that it still needs you, all the way through. And even when you are granted the visa, if it's a TSS application and then you leave your job, or your job is made redundant, as I covered in the first video, not working for your employer because you've lost your job effectively means you're in breach of your visa conditions, which causes other problems. So there's a lot to consider in terms of whether or not you should be applying for these types of visas, given everything that's happening. In terms of leaving Australia, I covered this in our first video, not the first part of this video, but the first video. Really, the advice hasn't changed too much. I mean, the advice at the time was leave only if it's absolutely necessary. I would adjust the advice a little bit to say, don't leave, unless it's absolutely necessary. Because as we now know, with the travel bans as they apply and exist at the moment, if you look to depart, unless you're a permanent resident or citizen, or you can demonstrate safely that you are in a relationship, a de facto or spousal relationship with an Australian citizen or permanent resident, it may be very difficult to get you back in the country. So please factor that in determining whether or not you should be leaving, because things have changed since our previous video. Now, as always, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to comment somewhere around this video, wherever it is that you see it. The content of this video and the two parts of this video really have come from the questions that we received from the first. So I thank everyone that left their questions. It's given us obviously a pool of information to work with and to, I suppose, construct this video and the topics to be covered. So similarly, the questions that we receive in this video will help us generate the topics for the next video. So I'm really just going off the community and the things they want us to talk about. This really isn't driven by me per se, or by us per se. It's driven by the questions that we're receiving. Ultimately, because that's what we're trying to do, is help the people that need help, or the areas that people seem to need help in. So please do leave your questions, because it not only allows us to answer you, but it means that we can help others that may be in similar positions to yourself. And lastly, anyone that needs help and would like to have a conversation with me personally, you can book a call at salvomigration.com.au/urgent. For those that are in a relationship with Australian partners, you may be eligible for a free consultation. There'll be information around that at that URL. So please do check out that URL, book a call, and let's have a conversation and see if we can put a plan in place to keep you or your loved one in the country safely. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you again for your attention. Please, like I said, subscribe, like our channel, like our Facebook page, do all those things to make sure that you stay up to date with any new content that we release. Thank you very much.